So, to the great dismay of those on the left, Donald J. Trump was elected to become the 47th president of the United States. Now, already both sides of the political aisle have been inundating the media with why they believe Donald Trump not only overwhelmingly won the Electoral College vote, which included all of the battleground states, specifically of note, the blue wall states of Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, but also they want to know why it is that he won the popular vote. That vote, which eliminates any Democratic argument for the legitimacy of his election as the 47th president. Not to mention how also the Republicans have taken back the Senate and have a pretty good shot at taking the House as well. So, with all of the differing opinions being offered by both political and media pundits from both sides of the aisle, is there a simple explanation as to why there was such an overwhelming victory for the right? I believe there is. So let's talk about it. Okay, to get to the simple answer as to why Donald Trump was so successful in winning the presidential election by such a large margin over Kamala Harris, we must first establish just what it was that the country was voting for. You see, for the past 3.5 years, the Biden Harris administration has empowered the woke ideology movement in such a way that this country has simply become very tired of having to endure the nonsense of gender ideology, of pronouns, of men invading women's sports and spaces, etc. They have become tired of hearing how these woke liberal politicians attempt to justify how there is no money to assist homeless Americans while they spend millions and millions of dollars housing illegal immigrants or funding foreign wars to the tune of billions of dollars. Many Americans are frustrated because they struggle to feed their family and to pay for health care while their tax dollars go to feed and provide free health care for illegal immigrants. So, what has happened is that many Americans who have now experienced the influx of higher crime, higher costs of groceries, utilities, and gas, the invasion of men into women's sports and private spaces, the serious migrant problem we're facing, and all of the rest of the problems woke ideology has created, have realized that the concept of a feel good ideology just does not translate well into practical reality. Now, unfortunately, as long as there are those, like the Hollywood rich and famous, or liberal politicians, who never have to worry about the reality of paying bills or suffering from the effects of an impractical ideology, it's easy for them to hold on to the dream of a utopian ideology and then push it onto a gullible sector of society. Yet, any ideology that is grounded in the rejection of practical reality, proven science, established economic understanding, and even basic common sense simply cannot create a real benefit for our society. And this is why so many Americans voted overwhelmingly for Donald Trump. You see, the more that Americans had to face the reality that the ideological hype of liberal promises are never fulfilled in real life, the more they discovered their need to open their eyes and embrace the truth. I mean, think about it. For Donald Trump to have won all of the battleground states, especially the consistently blue wall states of Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, and the popular vote, then it is clear that it wasn't just Republicans that voted for him. Over this election season, the internet has been plastered with videos of lifelong Democrats who have come forward to express how they were voting for Trump because they were tired of how liberal Democrats never fulfill the ideological hype and promises that they continually campaign on. These videos show how Democrats who experience the reality of what woke ideology really is end up opening their eyes to the truth. Let's take a look at a few of these video shorts posted by Benny Johnson and Doc Rich to see what I'm talking about. And please take a moment to support these guys by checking them out and subscribing to their channels.
Lots of people are changing their minds.
If you would have told me a month ago that I would be voting for Donald Trump in this next election, I would have told you to kindly f off. You know what? No. I would have told you to f right off. Because absolutely not. I would never vote for him. But you know what? I'm a human. And as humans, we are allowed to grow, we are allowed to evolve, we are allowed to change our opinions, we are allowed to educate ourselves on topics that maybe we're not as versed on as we think that we are. And that's exactly what I've been doing. And I realized that I was drastically misinformed before, and I won't let that happen again. So I will be voting for Donald Trump in this next election.
I mean, she ain't lying. The moment you disagree, all that love and positivity stuff goes right out the window.
So ever since I've showed my support to Donald Trump, the internet has called me a clown. I'm not educated. I'm not black. They wish Donald Trump would rape my daughters. They want me to go jump off a bridge. I mean, the amount of hateful things that people are leaving under my comments, it's so disgusting. You guys are so for love and peace and unity, but actually, you guys are the most hateful people. You guys are a bunch of snowflakes. You can't handle somebody just stating their opinion. You can support Kamala Harris on your page. That's fine. That's okay. I don't expect anybody or everybody to think like me. So it's wild to me.
So a former liberal is going viral on TikTok for explaining the difference between liberals and Republicans. And it's ringing true like a bell. Check this out.
There's a massive difference between how Republicans treat people and how Democrats treat people. When I was a liberal, when Republicans found out that I was a liberal, they didn't say anything. They just left me alone. Or at the most, it was agree to disagree. Now that I've decided that I'm voting for Trump and have been very vocal about it, I have never been attacked so much in my entire life.
Join the club, pal.
Join the club. I've been called every name in the book by the party of love and respect.
I call myself a joyful warrior.
I've been called slow, dumb, idiot, everything under the sun about my looks. My voice is too deep, constantly called racist. I actually got a comment calling me racist.
That is really racist.
All of the backlash is pushing me further into Trump and pushing out the message and realizing that this is the right way to go about things.
Okay, so you see and heard that. Now, what I find most important to note is that in the first video, you hear this young woman say that she changed her thinking because she educated herself on the truth. She admits that through discovering the truth for herself, she came to realize that she was being misinformed by those whom she trusted in from the left. She learned that educating herself in the truth is the way to protect herself from being lied to. Yet for those who don't make the effort to seek out the truth as the means by which they form their beliefs, it takes the personal experience of being harmfully impacted by the hype of liberal ideology, whereby they find themselves crashing into the wall of reality and truth, that causes them to become aware of just how misinformed they are. Let me show you what I mean by sharing with you the experience of Ana Kasparian, the co-founder and co-anchor of the extremely liberal The Young Turks broadcast. This is a broadcast that boasts of having 100 million views monthly, is heavily woke and liberal, and in my opinion, is so extremely biased in their beliefs and liberal ideology that they would regularly turn a blind eye to the truth just to justify their desire to not just continue in their beliefs, but to promote it to young, impressionable minds. So I want to show you how Ana Kasparian responded when her own personal ideological beliefs crashed into that wall of reality and truth. On September 30th of this year, Ana wrote an article entitled Independent and Unaligned. You're right, I have changed. Let's read it and check out her reaction when her ideology crashed into that wall of reality and truth. After Trump came onto the political scene, and especially after he was elected in 2016, the us versus them mentality immediately took shape. Anyone who refused to resist Trump was seen as a threat to the country, and I was fully on board with that mindset. It all felt righteous at first, but eventually, the tactics deployed to fight Trump became repetitive, boring, and ultimately fruitless. And that's the first sign of liberal ideology, is that they will always focus on the feelings rather than on the truth. And that is what captures a lot of our young today. Polling shows that he has increased his support among Black and Latino voters despite wall-to-wall coverage on his unsavory, racist, or bigoted remarks. Several years of media raising alarm over Trump's threat to democracy has only resulted in a tight presidential race between himself and Kamala Harris. I can't help but acknowledge that the only thing that was accomplished by resisting Trump was less understanding and more division among Americans. And you got to understand that's how liberal ideology works, is that they want to avoid the truth and focus on creating a mental image in your mind of the other side, the opposing opinion, being actually an assault and or a threat to your way of life, to your thinking. That in turn creates a strong emotional engagement you have to want to fight, to want to support what it is that they're telling you. And that's how they capture young people specifically. She goes on to say, I personally became reluctant to challenge my side or engage with voters who disagreed with me. In turn, I became less knowledgeable about the people and world around me. I saw Republican voters as an evil monolith, and that was a big mistake. Now, this is where I need to stop and respect Anna for her ability to be introspective. You see, a person must possess some sense of personal integrity before said person can self-evaluate as to whether or not what they believe is actually true. And keep in mind that according to this next paragraph, Anna did not come to this point of realizing the mistake of her beliefs without first having experienced the fallacy of what liberal ideology claims to be true. My evolution started in 2022 when I was horrifically assaulted by a homeless man in my neighborhood as I was walking my dog. That horrible experience alone didn't change me politically, but the treatment I received from the far left and some progressives after sharing the story did. I was told by publicly sharing what had happened to me, I was stigmatizing my quote unquote unhoused neighbors. Others accused me of feeding into racist tropes because they assumed that my attacker was black, but I had never even disclosed the man's race. He was white. And let me stop and say this. This is ideology at its worst. Instead of supporting this woman who experienced the most horrific thing a woman can go through, they were more concerned about protecting their race-baiting talking point to ensure that what they want to use as a means to create votes for their side and to continually keep people in the battle for what they want is maintained. And that, my friends, is absolutely deplorable. She goes on to say, not only did I suddenly see the flawed thinking of some on the left, I also witnessed their cruelty and hypocrisy in real time. These terrible traits that I had associated solely with my political opponents were obviously not exclusive to their tribe. I was stupid for ever thinking that was the case. And now you see the beginning of her mind departing from the ideology and beginning to embrace the substance of what the truth is. You can't see the truth if you are just tunnel visioned on what it is you want to believe. And that's the power behind the ideology, is that you concern yourself more with the ideology than you do with the reality. And because of that, people get put aside, denounced, put down, and dehumanized for the sake of the ideology. That doesn't mean everyone on the left thinks or behaves in the way this small group of lunatics do. Far from it. But it does mean that there are fractions and flaws on both sides of the aisle, and no one has a monopoly on truth. And here you can see the beginning of her understanding being broadened beyond the ideology. Because the reality is, when you're dealing with people, human nature dictates that there will always be evil present. And that means just because the ideology wants you to believe that only those that oppose your beliefs are those who possess the nature of evil, the reality is people in general do. And that means people on both sides of the aisle. And when you begin to come to understand that, it becomes easier for you to realize, hey, I need to broaden my perspective, not just against those who I'm supposed to hate, but to my own side, my own party, and dare I say, even to my own self. That's where the beginnings of truth become discovered. Then there was the insane reaction to one of my tweets in March 2023. I am a woman. Please don't ever refer to me as a person with a uterus, a birthing person, or person who menstruates. How do people not realize how degrading this is? You can support the transgender community without doing this crap. All hell broke loose after I posted those words. Most friends in left-wing media didn't bother reaching out privately to discuss their disagreement with my personal preference. Instead, many self-described socialists took it upon themselves to profit from conflict by publicly attacking me with monetized video. A smaller leftist YouTube show put out 5 separate videos skewering me about the tweet, while conveniently erasing the advocacy I had done on behalf of the transgender community throughout my career. They even went as far as drawing a link between my tweet and trans suicides, which sadly wasn't the most unhinged outcome of the debacle. The Young Turks volunteer YouTube chat moderators quit over the tweet, and someone reported me to Human Resources. An on-air transgender contributor even resigned from the company after being urged by online mobs and leftist shows to do so. Curious that not one of those shows hired her after she took their advice. I never apologized for the tweet, and I never will. That whole experience forced me to come to terms with the intolerance on the left, and it allowed me to publicly reject the ideological shackles that kept my world small and less informed. And there you see it. There you see the realization that ideology puts you in bondage. It doesn't grant you the freedom to discover reality, to discover truth. Those things which can form a more socially cognitive, a more socially equipped benefit for all. You cannot have the benefit of all the things you want to preach about in love and freedom and peace and joy and all those things without the presence of reality and truth. Because ideology is not based in those things, and it cannot fulfill those desires that humankind has for those things. If you want freedom, you have to be grounded in the mindset of what freedom truly is. And freedom is not something that is designated only to what a few want to define it as. You got to have a societal foundation of what defines the reality of freedom, of what defines the reality of liberty and of rights and all those things, what is good and moral and decent. If you don't have that, you have a society full of chaos because you have, out of 100,000 people, 100,000 different views on how those things should be defined. And a society cannot come together and be unified if it's too busy being divided by everybody's allotment to believe what they want to believe. That's what ideology does. That's how ideology destroys a society and creates havoc in the lives of people. Right now, you have families who reject each other. You have, and mostly on the liberal left side, you seldom, if ever, hear of a conservative or right leaning person who will say to you that they have denounced their mother, their children, their friends over their political beliefs. You'll see that that is always, as Anna just said, that she realized it is always the intolerance on the left. And when you look upon that, it is easy to see where the fallacy actually resides. And to overcome that, we as a society and as individuals have to come to terms with the fact that I cannot afford to embrace ideology on its own. I have to Build that ideology on the foundation of truth. Because apart from that, you have nothing but chaos. So let me end by saying this. The reason that there is so much chaos in our world today, so much division among us, is because many politicians and social activists have created an ideological mindset within their constituents that is devoid of truth. They did that because they know that whenever rationally minded people like these women I showed earlier, and people in influential places like Anna Kasparian discover what the truth really is, then they will allow that understanding to guide their beliefs. Through the real life treatment she received, Anna realized that the problem isn't just limited to one group of people. She, like these other women I showed, they came to the realization that by nature, many people who have a personal agenda will easily lie, steal, and cheat to get what they want. And we, as a people, have to be so aware of that we commit ourselves to the discovery of truth so that we are not deceived by them. Because in that commitment, we are truly those who will live for the protection of real freedom and democracy. So, those are my thoughts. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments. And while you do that, please don't forget to punch that like button, share the video with others, and make sure to hit that notification bell so you'll never miss a new video. I would greatly appreciate it if you would also hit that subscribe button, as we all know how important that is for a channel to grow. Once again, for those of you who have already subscribed, I just want to say thank you very much. I really do appreciate the support. So as always, I'd like to just say God bless you, and thanks so much for taking the time to listen. I know this one is a bit long. So until next time,